Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, July 6th, 2024. And our top story today, Wall Street continues to hit records as a slowing economy boosts. And our top story today, Wall Street continues to hit records as a slowing economy boosts hopes for interest rate cuts. And joining me now to help break it all down, Jane King joins us from the NASDAQ. Jane, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program again this morning.
Great to be with you, Jeffrey.
And again, really privileged to have you, given that you are on, 90 different networks? How many, what number are you up
Something
to?
like that. Yeah, like about that 90 different TV stations all around the country.
Right. So if Jane looks familiar, which she should, she's been doing this for a long time. She's a veteran. She could be on your TV channels, TV network as well. All right, Jane, that aside, which is great. Let's talk about this week in the market. We had in the middle, the July 4th Independence Day holiday. Markets were closed, but looking back on markets, how did we do?
Well, it's turning out to be, if all things go okay, a positive week. So another one. So even despite, the holiday, it did feel lighter. Like I feel like a lot of people took this week off. And if they didn't take the whole week off, they took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. So it was just a light trading day and a light trading week. We had some good numbers to look at, particularly about jobs.
Yeah, let's talk. And by the way, you're not alone, because every email I sent to potential partners, I never got a response back. So I think a lot of people, especially in the financial services industry, took off. All right, Jane, job numbers came out Friday morning. How
Yeah.
did they look?
So about as expected, 206,000 jobs created in June. We expected 200,000, so that was pretty close. The unemployment rate did tick higher to 4.1%, and that is the highest since November of 2021. Now, when you break it down a little bit, 70,000 of that job growth was government jobs. So that is city, state, federal. Some people anecdotally say the police are getting hired as people are upset about crime, things like that. 49,000 was healthcare, 34,000 was social assistance. Now, professional and business services, that's white collar workers, shed jobs last month. So that was a little concerning to some economists that the government jobs are gaining, but yet the white collar jobs are losing some ground. And then April and May both were revised downward. So those initial job growth numbers that we got on those months, the economists took another look at it and go, it wasn't as good as we thought. So I don't know, kind of a lackluster jobs report. I didn't see anything really great about it, but nothing super alarming either.
Well, I mean, if half the jobs are government jobs, and there's some contraction in the private sector, that seems to me, I'm not an economist, that seems potentially pretty worrisome. Let's talk about some of the softening data and what it means to Wall Street, because we keep on going back to Fed interest rate cuts. Softening data, softening economic data, what does this mean potentially for the market?
Well, I mean, and we have seen gross domestic product, it's still growing, but like 1%. So it's super sluggish. This number here, 200,000 jobs compared to May, that was 272,000, I believe, and that was even revised lower. So we're seeing job growth kind of weaken a little bit as well. If we would continue to see this, I mean, that certainly means a Fed interest rate hike won't be in the cards. But we also have to balance the weakening economy with inflation and where that sits before the Fed starts cutting rates. And we'll get some more consumer inflation numbers out just in a couple of weeks. So it's a balancing act, like it always is. They got to thread the needle.
And anecdotally, I mean, July 4th, everything I read around the July 4th holiday, the cookout costs, that's like potato chips and
Right. Hot
coleslaw
dogs.
and
Yep.
hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever else they brought worse. I don't know. Whatever you eat on July 4th, that cookout cost went up. And I by the way, Jane, I filled up gas yesterday for my wife, and gas prices here in Charlotte up significantly. I think I paid $3.45 for
Mhm.
87 for the lowest octane gas.
Well, and rents are still going up. I mean, there are a few little pockets of places where rents are going down, like, and these are mainly those cities that everybody moved to during the pandemic, like Austin, Texas, and things like that. Now they have vacancies because people are kind of, I don't know, moving back or moving away or something. And but rent nationwide is still going up. So that shelter, that housing piece of consumer prices is very tough, and a lot of people can't even begin to buy the first home. It's just too expensive. They can't raise the money for down payment. And so housing's still really tough part of the economy right now.
Well, I like your thread the needle analogy, and certainly the Fed has to do it, but I think the American consumer is doing it as well. Jane, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jane. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing your perspective. And when we come back, we take a look at some of our best segments during this short week. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Welcome back, and though it was a short week because of the July 4th holiday, it was a great week in terms of topics, shows, and of course, great guests. We kicked off the week with a look at how to find a missing pension. Let's take a look.
This is a massive problem that we see. People all across the country who have worked for several years in order to earn their benefits often find themselves, when it comes to retirement, that they have no idea what happened to their benefits. It might be a situation where they have ceased working with the employer themselves may have moved or changed their names. And it's just hard for people to find a way to backtrack and, number one, see what happened to their benefits if they were aware that they had benefits, or what happens very frequently as well, to see whether they ever qualified for a benefit while they worked there. So under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, this is the law, the federal law that protects all private pensions. There is a requirement for private pension plans to pay into insurance through the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. So pensions are never just lost. They don't evaporate just because a company goes out of business or changes name or even goes through a bankruptcy. All of those benefits are protected and secured by the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. So there are requirements, there are notice requirements that require plans to make these efforts. Unfortunately, in practice, what generally happens is, sometimes these notices don't go out. Sometimes they go to old addresses. And so companies are required to provide just that, again, adequate notice, the best of their ability, but they're not required to track anyone down or trace them. So again, people very often, after working somewhere 30 years ago, they might have moved several times since then, and they just never received this information. One of the main ways that people actually reach out to us is either, again, they have that old vesting statement saying this is how much you're going to receive when you turn 65, or they actually receive what's called an L-99 form, or a notice of potential private retirement benefit, from Social Security. So whenever someone applies for Social Security benefits, be it retirement or some type of Social Security benefit aid, they actually receive this notice. Social Security will scan their information and say, oh, it looks like you might have a benefit somewhere. But that's the end of where Social Security can help. So they're basically just given this little fact sheet of information with no leads of where to go to next. And so that's typically how people do find us.
Next up, we discussed battling veteran debt. It's a big deal. Let's take a look.
Veterans are the least people likely that will share with anybody that they're sick, broke, and being chased by bill collectors. How does that happen? In an America where these people have basically signed a blank check that said, I'm willing to give anything up to, including my life, to protect you and to protect my country. They serve whatever time they serve. In my case, I was a Navy journalist for 4 years, and I did my tour. I was glad to do it, felt great about it. It gave me wonderful skills. And then I went home. And then there are people that are, spend 20, 30 years of their life making sure that America is guarded and taken care of. Both deserve the appreciation, the attention that they get, and few of them get it because they don't talk about it. What do I mean by that? Well, right now, the VA of itself will deny $2 billion worth of medical claims that will be made by veterans. $2 billion. Now, if a claim is rejected, what happens to it? It goes back to the backs of the veterans. They don't talk about it, but it puts them into bankruptcy. They lose homes, credit, and I guess worst of all, they're doing it alone and lonely. And I want to give people an idea that in my background, I was fortunate enough to co-found a charity called RIP Medical Debt. That charity, since we established it in 2014, has abolished over $12 billion worth of medical debt across the universe, across America, for anybody and everybody. A small percentage, of course, were veterans. But veterans have more than just a medical debt on their back, and that's bad enough. They have every other form of debt, everything from debt of necessity, meaning you got to put tires on the car, meaning you have to make a decision whether or not to pay the debt collector or put food on your table. Debt that's predatory, payday loans, car notes, usurious credit card rates. These are all piled on the backs of veterans who, even in their service life, barely had enough money or enough pay to be able to cover them. So it's the overall picture of debt. Going back to the VA, people don't understand that the VA is discretionary. It can choose who it wants to receive any form of handicap payments or disability payments, or whether or not an ambulance that you took to a civilian hospital is going to be covered, much less the civilian hospital, because in either case, maybe it wasn't a service-related problem. So you see the veteran, and by the way, more than 40% of all veterans, they don't even use the VA for various reasons. Too far away from any to reach, to go to. And of course, facing the hurdles of qualifying for, for some form of debt relief. When I retired from RIP Medical Debt, I started a 501c3 private charitable foundation called End Veteran Debt. It's a sole purpose: raise awareness, get people participating, and ending veteran debt. Because it's all the things that precede the debt and the things that follow the debt that are destroying the veterans' lives. So you got to get awareness. So what we're putting out now is a campaign called Campaign Operation Debt Day. You've heard of D-Day, right?
Absolutely.
And
we just
all
had the celebration of D-Day. Yeah.
Everybody knows June 6th as D-Day. Well, the veterans in 1944 and 1945 returning home came to a much different America than our veterans are coming to. The GI Bill is not nearly as generous as it was then. The healthcare was not as pervasive and widely available as it is today. So today's veteran making what you and I call that transition, going from a very structured life where there's purpose, there's meaning, to ending up in a community where, just keeping your job is your mission or purpose for most people. And it's disorienting. Then when the challenges come in, when debt starts piling up with or without the intelligence or the consent of this individual, that's when the stress really shows up. That's when you create what we call suicidal ideation. Very few people are aware of the fact that debt is a social determinant of suicide. The very fact that not only are you facing all the problems that you're facing, but on top of that, you're dealing with debt that's unpaid and unpayable, and you have no place to go. Thank God there are many military charities, local ones as well, more than national, that step up and do their best. But why in the world do we need a charity to step up and take care of our veterans when we should be doing it? So it's this mixed blessing of the work that we're doing.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, then visit our website. Hey, we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN Sunday. We'll be breaking down all things occurring on Capitol Hill when it comes to retirement and benefits, and to be taking a look at recent events in the economy and market. So until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving. And don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.